Don't live in a state of delusion. Just because you wish to get A plus will not help you get an A plus. Even if you study 24 hours a day, it is not guaranteed that you will get an A plus. Stop filling the students with false dreams. Motivation alone isn't enough for your students to get an A plus. The number of students who get an A plus doesn't represent the quality of your educational institutions. There are many other indicators that can put your school or college on the top. Yes, I am talking to the students, the teachers, and the administrators. This chapter was very important. I think until today in this book, nobody has come up with a concept similar to the degree mountain. However, I believe that time has come for all the stakeholders to adapt this concept. The more counseling sessions I am having, the more I realize that the blanket style of education that we have is misguided and based on the wrong assumptions about learning. If you have 50 students in a classroom that are chosen randomly, then the likelihood that their cognitive capacity and aspirations would be the same is minuscule. Mind you, I'm talking about students in the same age group who have finished the same earlier class. Also, I am not talking about the variations in personalities, characters, social backgrounds, and so on. So the problem is that in the current educational system, the 50 students are assumed to have some specific language skills as well as mathematical skills that correspond to the syllabus covered in the earlier class. Then both the syllabus and the teacher start teaching based on this particular assumption. Another assumption is that every student wants to study up till PhD and one day wants to become a professor like them. With those two assumptions, those 50 students are fixated with a dream to get A plus. This ridiculous desire is reinforced by the teachers and eventually by society itself, as well as the parents. But after having read this chapter, you know very well that both assumptions are totally wrong. First, talking about the assumption of cognitive capacity being that of the earlier degree passed. The truth is that the students are mostly far behind as far as 6 academic years. This means that a student who is in class 12 is assumed to have the skill level of class 11 and thus is taught accordingly among the class of the 50 that we talked about. However, 80% in that class have a cognitive and intellectual capacity of class 10 and below up to class 4. Consequently, they don't understand anything in grade 12. Their bodies might have grown tall, but if we could transpose their physical body with their cognitive bodies, then the teachers would be appalled because that class of 50 would be filled with little boys of 10 years old as well as little girls, by the way. However, nobody is willing to accept the falsity of the first assumption that we discussed. Only 20% of the class of 50 would have the cognitive capacity of class 11 when they reach class 12. This is the elephant in the room that everybody is acting as if it doesn't exist. The problem is so big and complex that even if I was a teacher or the owner of a school or college, I too would happily deny this wrong assumption of equal mental capacity among the 50 students. What would be required if we change our assumption and we assume that the 50 students have got different cognitive skills is to be running 5 different classes within a class. Then there would be 5 teachers with expertise in the above 5 strategies that we discussed. There would be A plus teachers, A grade teachers, up to D level of cognition. So the A plus student would be taught by a teacher who is an expert in dealing with their type of students. The same applies for the other grades. The interesting thing here is that the most talented teacher would be the D grade teachers. They would need to be masters of their subjects to such an extent that they can dumb down their teachings and slowly add layers, meat, or content once the students are able to understand the bones, basics of the subject. So, under this new assumption, the teachers who have the expertise in teaching the D grade students and the C grade students would be the most highly paid, followed by the B grade students, and finally the A and A plus students. I know it's counterintuitive and it just doesn't make sense. That is why I'm writing this book in the first place. At this current stage, the findings in my book just don't make any economic sense. That said, it doesn't make those findings false. It's just hard to digest and even harder to ever apply them in the real world. Now, talking about the second assumption that every student aspires to be a A plus student, we have to understand that those 50 students, although they might not know it, do not agree. Some don't want to be spending their time and energy in the game of exams. Some love this game of exams. When we tell the students that they should aim for A plus, it's like telling every person who joins a football academy for training that success in their lives is to become the next Ronaldo or Messi. It's not possible. Not everyone is willing to dedicate their lives to either football or sports or studies, even though they might have signed up for it. Later on, they realize that there is more to life than spending their whole lives playing or studying. Everybody is different. Just to increase the probability of getting students with A plus, we cannot kidnap everybody's dream. We have to allow students to get recognition even if they get a simple A or a B or a C or even a D. Once we are able to set such a culture, then the students themselves will be able to choose their correct aspirations. Some will say that they are willing to sacrifice everything to get an A plus. Some will say that all they want is to understand the topics that they are being taught and will be satisfied with an A or B. Some will say that they don't really want to understand everything, but just enough to get on with life because they have better things to do than studies, like starting a business or specializing in some hobbies of theirs. So they would be very happy to aspire for a C grade. Then some students will accept that, like, singing is not in my genes, education isn't in theirs, yet they really want to have the bare necessary skills of language and mathematics and other general knowledge of relevant subjects to have a secure and respectable life. So they will be more than happy to settle for the D grade. So in this way, we must make it easy and graceful for the students to choose the correct academic goals. Again, this is another utopia. It's easy to imagine, but to implement it in the real world, even for my wildest imagination, is hard. There are so many things that can go wrong in this experiment, but through this book, I hope that somebody with the necessary authority will carry on this experiment. So far, I have talked to the college administrators and school administrators. It is in their hands to bring change, but why should they? I have written this chapter mainly for the students, because by not abiding to the current culture of education and choosing their own specific academic goals, they can not only find more success, but they can have inner peace and happiness. In my counseling sessions, I am so saddened to see students who don't have the capacity to even get D grade, but who are frustrated because they are not getting A grade. In the fixation for the correct aspiration, they are unable to make a proper diagnosis of their mental, intellectual, cognitive capacity and learning deficiency. In fact, there is no tool to analyze that at this state of education. So, if you are such a student who finds it very difficult to keep up with your current class, know that it is because your cognitive class level is much lower, and it's okay. You might have gotten to this position where you shouldn't have been due to mistakes that you did in the past, or mistakes and negligence made by your earlier education institutions. And you know what? It's okay. What is past is past. The idea is to aim lower, then follow the strategy that I have outlined earlier. You'll get over your degree mountain. If you are not aiming to become a PhD doctor or a professor, there is no need to aim for A plus. If you want to become a successful entrepreneur of big technology and run a multi-billion dollar organization one day, then you better aim for at least a degree grade. This will help you with the habit of both understanding deeply and also learning to meet the targets. If you are planning to become an expert in some fields other than studies and you want to be happy in life, then aim for B grade, because in the B strategy it's all about understanding. Later on, this skill will help you understand relationship, business problems, health problems, and any life problem that will help you be happy, and that is your goal. If you want to have a fun-filled and exciting life full of adventures, risk-taking, be it in the form of business or any profession that requires leadership skills and soft skills, then aim for C grade. The little and bare necessary skills and knowledge that you would have acquired will help you communicate with everybody that you will encounter in life. They could be highly educated, A plus students, or dropouts. So from this chapter, you have gotten a very different picture of education. There is not one single goal in life, and there never should be. This was the main point I wanted to put across in this chapter.